Good evening. I formally welcome you all to the 15th edition of M.A.D. It is so nice to see everybody wearing their favorite IPL team's color. So, the topic that we're discussing today is that do brands really score by batting with cricket? So, without further ado, let's begin and hopefully we'll conclude this discussion as well.
I were to hear from you after this call or whenever we meet.
Not very complimentary stuff.
Giraj, tell us the genesis of this topic. What brought you to? Why did you think it was so relevant? Because of IPL.
Yeah, because of IPL, I think the actual culprit, unfortunately, is not yet here, which is
Hi,
Chitra. Hi, LK.
this is Rajappa here. Hi, Giraj.
Hi, Rajappa. How are you? I think you make your debut there. Wonderful. Hi, LK. Welcome to M.A.D. You're wearing. LK doesn't support IPL, so he's wearing India blue.
Hi, LK. Good to see you.
Good to see you also. Hi, Rajappa.
Hi.
Hi,
How are you doing?
LP.
Hello, is that Ashu's voice?
Yes, of course.
Oh, hi. Hi.
Hi, Chitra.
I'm a bit late, I think. Today I was also invited to view a live YouTube show by somebody. So I was torn between the two, engagements.
We're very glad that you preferred M.A.D. I think that's
No,
wonderful.
I went there. I heard them a
Okay.
little bit, and then I found that they were not doing live singing. They were pre-recorded.
All right.
So I said, yes, then there's no fun.
But that's the power of IPL, Viraj.
No, but LK doesn't follow IPL. He's like me. He's like a test match cricket follower. Or
You don't have to follow IPL.
all right, it catches on to you.
Stay outside and keep making nice noises,
Yeah.
but you will be counted. You
All
see,
right.
you're not ignoring IPL, are you?
All right.
You might.
Okay, so I think we start off, and Ashu, I'll answer your question now that Chitra is on. I think I'll pass that on to her after we start. But before that, there are a few people who are making their debut on the M.A.D. platform. I would ask them to introduce themselves. We'll begin with Rajappa. Raja, if you can introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rajappa. I've been a good 3 decades in my professional career now, of which I think about 2 decades I've been with Redev. Started out with Clarion Delhi and then really gravitated towards other entities. And Redev happened to be predominantly the 2 decades I spent with them. Virtually headed every function before becoming their group CEO. And 2013, I really stepped down to really pursue my own outside the agency domain, really. With the shift towards digital and lots of things happening. So it's been a good 7 years now since I've been running my own consulting firm.
And he used to play cricket up to a decent level. I think why don't you talk about that?
Well, I used to play club cricket for Delhi. This used to be the DDCA, though we used to have the craze thanks to the 83 win because we were all, I think, in a way, influenced with cricket at that time to such a great extent. It was a crazy passion.
Yeah.
So I pursued it till the advertising thing completely took over. Because either you can devote full time here or you can do that to advertising.
I sent you the invite. We are on. Come.
So 89 is 88. 89 is what was really the last professional cricket that I really played. Of course, then I used to play for Mudra while I was there. So we did take down quite a few of the other teams in the tournament because I think we had a lot more of the club cricketers with us. But it's a fun journey, I guess.
Fair. So welcome to M.A.D. platform. This is your debut here. We hope to see you here repeatedly. I move on to Shekhar. Shekhar, who is joining us for the first time, another debutant on M.A.D. Shekhar, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, I have. Thank you, Rigaj, for having me with you in this group, and just been an engineer by qualification, but have never held a spanner to save my life. And I am alumnus, and have been in marketing all my life. Started off in sales, of course, with consumer electronics and then precious metals and photography and fine jewelry. And now I'm consulting with luxury goods and services. So a fair part of my career was in the Middle East. I've just returned to India, and I am consulting on an advisory role for goods dealing with luxury goods and for companies dealing with luxury goods. I love reading, singing, painting, theater, movies, beer, single malt.
My God. Stop.
And I fly too. I'm an aviator. I
That's
love
interesting
flying.
part.
So
The
I,
good life.
yeah. Well, so yeah, I love cricket. I played cricket when I was interning with Tata Electric. I played cricket for one of the divisions. I was not good enough for a higher level, so I played for one of the divisions within Tata Electric, and I had played against likes of Raju Bhalekar, who played for Maharashtra, and there were quite a few cricketers who I played against uh,
Wonderful.
uh, within Tata Electric, but couldn't represent Tata Electric because there were much better players there than I.
Fair.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shekhar. Welcome to M.A.D., and we hope to see you again on M.A.D. Another debutant on M.A.D., but somebody who's very well known is Raj. Raj, why don't you spend the next 2 minutes telling us about what all you've done in life?
I won't say much, except that I'm a student of sport. Used to play basketball and cricket and just about every sport under the sun. Then realized that I was not good enough to play at the highest level. So I said the easiest thing to do is to watch sport. All of you pay to watch sport. Somebody paid me to watch sport and write about it. So I've been very fortunate the last 37 years as a journalist. One of my biggest contributions to Indian sport has been working with the Commonwealth Games Organizing Committee in 2009 and 10. I know it was ridiculed, but I have great pride in how we conducted the event, and I know the inside story. I know how difficult it is to run sport in this country.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then 2 years I worked with the Delhi Daredevils as a media consultant for them. Ran social media at a time when Delhi Daredevils had about 500 likes on its Facebook page, and when I left 2 years later, we had about a 250,000 fans following us on Facebook and on Twitter. Um, you learn all the time, and that is what life has taught me. Uh, Working with Giraj, I've had the privilege of working with some wonderful brains in the country. Anil Kumble, Geet Sethi, uh, Jagbir Singh from hockey, Bishan Singh Bedi. We've been fortunate that we've worked on some projects together, and Giraj has been kind enough. Like all of you will agree, Giraj has some wonderful ideas. Um, One line that I remember of his, and I will never forget, neighbors envy, owners pride. Um, we all envy what Giraj does in life, but I will only aspire to do half of what he's done. Then I would have done well for myself.
My God, I think I should collapse and die. Anyway, I think incidentally the original one, the person responsible for the line is here. That's Jaya from the erstwhile advertising avenues. She used to head avenues, and for us, she was everything that we did in the brand. So Jaya, welcome to the platform. This is the second time that you're joining us. Also,
Yes.
another person who's joining us for the first time is Molesh, Mr. Molesh Chaya. Molesh, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone. Good evening.
Hi.
I am throughout working in Gujarat for last 35 years in the field of consumer durable. I recently took retirement from LG and working as an independent business consultant. Cricket, I love to watch. I used to play during the college and other period, but currently I am just a good watcher. Uh, and I love to sing and do some photography casually. That's what I am.
Wonderful. All right, so we take off. Will Pradipti introduce herself, or she would just want to be silent? Pradipti, if you can hear me, would you like to introduce yourself? I think she's on mute, Raj.
Yeah, I will text her and maybe
when she comes in. All right. Fair. So we start, and I think Ashu bowled a bouncer at me saying, "Why the hell have we picked this topic?" I was just desperately waiting for Chitra to come in, so I think we'll straight away go to Chitra and let Chitra explain what the topic is all about, and then we get cracking. Yeah, Chitra. Chitra, you're on mute.
Yeah, just unmuting. Hi everyone, good to be back here. And I think this is the most topical topic, right? I mean, with IPL just upon us, I mean, how can we not? I mean, cricket is a fever in this country, yeah. So as everyone says, what cricket, religion, and Bollywood, the three things that brands ride on. And I mean, with IPL, and I think we've been starved of everything, right? The whole of 5 months, and I think it'll be what we'll see. I think, I mean, there's just too much interest in the current IPL. And then, I mean, if you look at advertising also, I mean, in what the Super Bowl is in the US, I think IPL is fast becoming for brands here, right? That's justification enough. Even if you're not interested in cricket, but on branding, the synergy is kind of, I mean, unmissable. So,
right.
so that's what, I mean, as simple as that.
So why are brands betting on cricket? So I think our regular opener is missing today. So we will go to Sandeep in Calcutta. Sandeep, sir, will you open up today? Open the innings today, as I may call it. So what is it about cricket, and what is it about this IPL, and why do brands sort of clamor to the sport like as if there's no tomorrow, at least in India?
Okay, I don't know what do I deserve this honor to be the second opener in place of Lloyd, who is totally a master. Being from Calcutta, the Association of Cricket may be one justification, but I have never played any cricket or any sport seriously. Let me put that up front. And if I may, I'll take a minute. I was remembering when Rajaram was telling his story about cricket, how I didn't get to play any cricket. My father, all my uncles actually, they were very avid sports person. Most of them were triple blues, and they used to do things, you know, play everything. One of my uncle played for Mohun Bagan football, and another one was a sports, national badminton, and all the rest. My father's closest friend was a gentleman called Mickey Sen. He was one of the younger brothers of, there is a cricketer, some of you would have heard, those who have cricket, P. Sen. He was quite a legend. He was of a very old genre. So Mickey and my dad used to be extremely close, and they'd play. That one fine day, Mickey told my dad, look at all your brothers, look at my rest of my brothers other than P. Sen. Nobody has done anything good in life by playing thing. We must give up sports. And both of them kind of dropped sports like a hot brick, and then pursued each one. Mickey went abroad, and my father took to CA. So he never, within my family, knowing that there was a bug, he never really pushed me or encouraged me towards sports. But I blame it on him. It's essentially, I'm not a sporting person, and that's how I. So when you're asking me this question, I would probably approach it from kind of a non-sport angle, and that's what I felt it. It was more from a marketing angle, as you said, coming in. Like I was very, in some ways, you know, surprised that this year the way IPL is happening. You know, and it's the way they didn't cancel IPL, taking it to Dubai, etc. The reason essentially because I think more than a sports event, it has become a marketing event. And the marketing event is so big. Therefore, you know, sports, I wouldn't say is incidental, but sports is just an excuse for you to have that. And similarly, with the year, you know, they took IPL to South Africa. Okay, that year there was a thing, but again, essentially because that's the whole revenue model. And the point which you said about why do brands bet on IPL, I think that's something which we need to, that'll give us a little more deeper insight into the Indian psyche. I don't entirely agree with Chitra, not that I'm not refuting her logic. I don't think the analogy of Super Bowl and IPL in terms of the sport and the event are entirely similar. Super Bowl, I'll come to that later, maybe why I think these are not entirely similar, whether it's Super Bowl or the soccer in Europe, etc. Is there there is a very strong connect with the teams, and that's the model on which IPL was also built. That's why you had the city based teams, etc. But my feeling is, as far as the sport goes, people are pretty team agnostic. Very few people have a strong loyalty to one particular team. That okay, I'm being in Calcutta, that KKR has to be the team I back, or even if I back, I won't back Mumbai Indians or someone else. So there is a great deal of that sort of, as I said, agnostic attitude over there. And the same thing also comes uh, for the advertisers or people who are associating with the brand. And that's where, quote unquote, the term, I don't know whether you use it consciously or otherwise, betting comes in. So if you are a sponsor, you actually, because of nature of this animal, the way IPL has evolved, you're actually doing a lot of betting. If tomorrow I have to go and take a decision when I was buying media, that somebody, three sports management or companies or people came to me and saying that, okay, you have a sponsorship for Rajasthan Royal, you have Hyderabad, etc. The call you took is actually very, very speculative. And some fellow will tell you that, oh, this year you're going to get Rajasthan cheap, but they have got these people, they've changed the stuff, so there is very strong chances of their going up to semi-finals. So it's a very good deal, ROI you will get. So go for this one rather than go for take something in KKR who are very expensive and we don't know where. So people, the decision making is also really a bit of punting which goes on. It isn't as if people say that, okay, I'll identify myself with a Manchester United or someone, whether they go up, come down, just like on they put money behind a player, knowing that there is intrinsic value, and doesn't matter if he's not winning the championship this year, it'll go. So that is the strange mix which has gone in, and that will also explain the diverse categories which come into this game. I would say that is different from, again, whether you call it a Super Bowl or football at Europe, etc. So you can have this situation when Patanjali is vying with Xiaomi to say that who will take the title. And you could have had earlier, when there was no bar on this, you could have had Rajnigandha Pan Masala also coming. So which category is associating? That whole concept, which you people will know much more in advertising and marketing, that the brand fit is hardly a matter. People just are taking a call on the visibility of how much media mileage they're getting, rather than people are actually therefore not bothered. Say if I am going to sponsor tomorrow an XYZ team, whether that team has won or lost, what even the media marketer will come and try to sell you that they have lost, so what, but you got so much exposure because they played so many games and you got so many eyeballs, that's what's promised, so justify it. Yeah, I'm very tempted to step aside for a small anecdote. The company I work for, we didn't have huge budgets to really sponsor cricket. I'll discuss, therefore, what was our strategy. So one fellow managed to con me in sponsoring the first Afghanistan-India test match, which was played in Bangalore, what it is. And the match got over in 1.5 days, or I don't know, 1 day. It got over. So I called up, it was Star, I think, who sold it to me. I called them up. I said, see, and I didn't take the full thing. I didn't have title. As I said, I never had the money. So I took those spots of boundaries and wickets kind of thing. So I took that, and so I called them. I said, see, you people have taken me for a mass jolly ride. It was supposed to be a 5-day game. And he says, but look at it from the point of view of wickets. There was still the same number of wickets which were down. And so therefore you got so many exposures. So that way we have delivered to you our promise. As you guys must be joking. So they finally gave me a discount, but that's the mindset, you have taken this thing for every wicket. So we have had all the wickets down. So you've got that many exposures. So the deal is done. So that's the kind of perspective through which this is seen. And so therefore, I think it's a very interesting topic. If it was purely a sport topic here, I would have thought it odd, but I think there are various marketing dimensions. And the last point I will make before moving on, the first company, who I come from the category, my last working category was cement. Some of you may know. And in cement, I give the credit in India for first people who really thought of branding of cement was Ambuja, because they had a very tough task, because they came from Gujarat into a market. They brought the cement by ship to Bombay, and which was a very strong guard those days of ACC and other people. So they had to look at marketing. And one of the ideas Mr. Sixaria had was that he will go for cricket. So Ambuja went and punted money on cricket. And then people were also very surprised. A cement buyer, do they associate with cricket? He says, no, I'm not advertising for the cement buyer. I'm advertising for the cement dealer. Because all the dealers sitting in their stores throughout the tournament, they go on watching cricket, because that's how they get bored. So they have a television running and they do. And when I'm advertising there, I'm making my brand connect. Plus I'm raising the prestige of my brand. Are ye to cricket pe aa gaya. And then this cricket pe aa gaya, this psychology, let me tell you, after so many years still exists. When I joined MP Birla, we could not initially, we not only could not afford, but then also it was not economical, because we didn't have a national brand or a pan-India brand. But when I had a pan-India brand, I started getting into cricket in a surreptitious way, because as I said, I couldn't afford money for sponsoring a team or taking a position. So I started getting in this kind of way, the wickets or the recaps and blah, blah, putting a L band and everything they say. But as soon as I went in, I found my stature. By I mean the brand and the company. Abhi to ye log cricket pe aane laga, so abhi badi company ban gaya. So that is the mindset shift which happens, And so one had to take out money and put it there, and we found that gives me far greater mileage. And the second one, without digressing, the second mileage, I'll ask the team to guess of the same order, what gets you similar mileage in television in India? Any guesses?
Bollywood.
No, Bollywood is there, but Bollywood is...
Elections.
Elections. Elections is again, it's just like people treat it like a sport. And it is marketed like a sport over there. And you get... And the third thing which is getting marketed now, not in that order, I think I mentioned that in earlier one of the session, is Narendra Modi's speeches. They come and these people come and try to sell you spots because they think there are a huge amount of eyeballs. Which Arnab, you people all will curse Arnab. Arnab's show sells, you may hate it, only because of the eyeballs he gives you. So it's a game of eyeballs here in cricket, therefore it is so. And that's where I think the relevance of today's topic. Sorry, I've taken more time.
No, most welcome.
Here I must also step in and talk about, the pitch medicine report which came in about the advertising forecast for the next half year or whatever. and the one that went by, it's pointed out that this year, the first half, 3,000 crore alone last year was taken up by IPL and elections. So the importance, if you can see, right? I mean, the ad guys have lost money because revenues because of cricket. So you can underscore. I mean, and they're hoping that some of it will be recovered in the coming half of the year. So yeah, so that's how I know about elections, because it particularly mentioned that last year in the April month, I think we had cricket and elections, which gave a lot of revenues.
Absolutely, and we are again, that could be a subject for a subsequent MAD or one of the MAD, is what you see in terms of the, tabloidification or whatever you want to call of television. We are also to blame, because people have converted the television medium into, an entertainment channel. So during this whole lockdown period, when your GEC channels were not having programs, all the money went into news over there. And those of you who haven't seen it, I would, and irrespective of your views about Arnab, I would urge you all to see his interview yesterday with MXM Pradyuman Maheshwari. Forget the comments he was making about his news stand, political stand, but purely from a marketing standpoint, how Republic TV, but the Republic Bharat has taken a lead over the other people. I think there is a lot of, valid points he was making. One of them being he has stuck to news. Whereas whether you like the news or you don't like the news, he's not into entertainment, whereas others have moved on to entertainment over there. So that's worth. But look at see that interview. It's a good interview.
Okay, so I think I'll move on to LK. LK, where is LK disappeared? LK,
I'm here. I'm just looking at something in the meantime. Just give me a second.
All right. Okay. So in the meanwhile, I think we have Hemant joining us, and we have Dhananjay joining us. Hi, Dhananjay.
Hi, sir. Good evening.
How are you doing?
Good.
Good. And we also had Hemant joining.
Hi.
Hi, Hemant. Would you just spend 1 minute introducing yourself to the forum here?
I don't know how to. What shall I say? A columnist, a cricket columnist. Worked with many cricketing. In fact, probably one of the first guys to start sports PR in India. This was 92, 93, and then 96 during the World Cup, which was held here. I write a regular cricket column. Used to play a bit of cricket while I was in Bombay at a decent level. And obviously a complete, what shall I say, sports nut on World Sports Day.
Super. All right. Welcome to M.A.D. Fine. So,
Hemant being modest, he was Sachin Tendulkar's first representative captain. Sachin played the first representative game under Hemant Kengre.
All right.
He's very modest about his cricketing skills. Shekhar will have known because Shekhar played for Tatas and Hemant played for Tatas as well, alongside the likes of
I did not represent Tata. I just represented one division of Tata Electric within Tata
so did
Electric. Yeah.
I don't know which division was this.
Khopoli.
Okay. So I used to be for. If those days. I'm sorry, just digressing, but in those days only 2 or 3 A division players were allowed to play that tournament, if you remember.
No,
yeah?
I was not. I told you this was within Tata Electric.
Oh, I understand.
So I was not even that level.
No, that's okay. None of us are of that level.
Yeah.
Anyway, don't worry, Shekhar. We're not going to look at the scorecards, so don't worry.
Exactly.
Those ducks can rest where they
want. No, I scored well though.
All right. All right, LK, can we come back to you? So we heard what Sandeep said, and I think so. One of the key things that he mentioned about, which I think, which is typical about IPL and how IPL is different from, say, EPL or Super Bowl, as Chitra mentioned, is because the way we manage the teams in IPL. I think one of the reasons perhaps is that the teams have not sort of had the similar players and largely players from that region representing that team, and therefore there is a very little connect. Suddenly you have, say for example, in Kolkata you have a Saurav Ganguly playing for Pune Warriors. Now obviously I don't know which side to back up, or you had a Gautam Gambhir in Delhi, captaining KKR. So that's one aspect of it. But I think so. We'll come and visit and revisit that again. But broadly, this connection of cricket and this connection of brands with cricket. What do you have to say on that?
You know, if you go down to the root of the human nature, and especially so in India, I'm not an expert in international various markets, but especially in India, I think we as a country and individuals within this country, we have an inherent need for hero worship. We love to put things on a pedestal and so on. And any area of life that gives you heroes, the country goes behind that in a big way. Of course, Bollywood is one. Okay, politics has been one as well, and I'm not talking about these days politics, but I'm talking about traditionally how politics has evolved. We tend, and even our mythologies and everything, we have this whole tendency as a nation, as a culture, to have heroes and then worship those heroes and really follow them and so on. And cricket is another one, basically. Even from the days when we were not very competent on the international scene, when it was only test cricket, we would have one or two people who we would just have big debates about, Sunil Gavaskar or Vishwanath or Patodi or this, and with international cricket, with our success as things happened in ODIs and so on, we had that going on as well, as in we had few more heroes to really look up to. And marketing, obviously, will see these opportunities, and we as marketers tend to latch on to what's happening around us and say, okay, here's how we can do better marketing. And we learn from the world. I mean, it's not as if Indians invented celebrity marketing. It's been going on much before we have. But cricket is a phenomenon. I think after the ODIs had become so big and so many brands actually showed the way much before I even got into marketing with respect to sponsorships, etc., which I had the good fortune to do. But even much before that, so brands have found it traditionally that I agree that there is it's a game of eyeballs, and wherever people go, you fish where the fish are. So if there are going to be millions and billions of people watching something, then the marketer will go there, and that's the enduring appeal of cricket. IPL came in at a time when actually the eyeballs was going down. And it was showing on television, and in terms of the ODI's popularity, I think it was a generational shift, which tends to happen, and there was a need to actually reinvent things. Ironically, it was India who was not BCCI, who was not that much in favor of T20 cricket. If you remember, for the first T20 World Cup, they actually sent really a B team there. And soon enough, in that same year, BCCI really realized very fast that T20 is the thing, because Dhoni and company.
And I think before BCCI got onto the T20 bandwagon in the form of IPL, you had Z. Who started the Indian Cricketing League or ICL.
But BCCI, you see, the thing is that to really make some things matter, you need to have the money, right? And BCCI had the money, at least the power over the game, so to say, the way it is administered in India and so on. So ironically, it was BCCI who saw that goose, and they foresaw the golden eggs that they could see coming from it, and they came out with IPL. So. And it was good for Indian cricket in a way that another generation, even the gender that was not that much into watching sports on TV, started watching TV, and the rest is history. Yes. So finally, for a marketer, the phenomenon of cricket is nothing more than basically the eyeball game. So, and of course, even TV channels, for example, tend to recognize this. So how do you sell, England versus Zimbabwe game while you are creating a package? And that's why TV channels also discourage doing, match-wise picks of spots and so on and so forth, because they know the eyeballs are with the India games, the eyeballs are with the top 3-4 teams, the crucial games, the eyeballs with the semi-finals, etc. So I wouldn't say that India is cricket crazy to the extent that they will watch all cricket, right? Even within major tournaments, you'll find that there's bigger eyeballs for the bigger games. Okay, and strangely enough, you'll see a whole body of Indian consumers actually watching European football. They are not of that club, they are not of that country. But again, this hero worship, if you look at Twitter, Messi's been in the news, or Ronaldo's doing this, etc. We still tend to do that. It's not just when now we've made heroes out of specific teams, okay, because there are 2 or 3 major players. So the whole point behind marketers gushing around cricket in India is about who are people idolizing and how can I package them, repackage them for Indians to consume. And that is why 4 or 5 cricketers at any given point in time are the richest cricketers. In fact, our top cricketer is usually the richest cricketer in the world.
Correct.
Because Indians hero worship, man. And as long as you have a way to present those heroes and to be where the people's eyeballs are, I don't think anybody cares whether Kolkata Knight Riders wins or loses. I mean, the year where a couple of teams were disqualified and beach mein you had the Pune guys come in and so on, who cares? The eyeballs were still there, right? So there is no franchise loyalty or anything. Well, to some extent, maybe Mumbai's built a little bit. To be fair,
Chennai also.
Chennai's built a little bit. For some reason, Kolkata, even though they have lost more than they have won, but they have won at some occasion. I don't forget when. I don't remember.
Twice.
Yeah. So even Kolkata, even though they were the whipping boys, okay, they've also got some kind of following. Bangalore, man, Bangalore guys are still crazy about their team. And they turn up in big numbers to cheer them up with the whole stadium turning red and so on. So there are 2-3 teams that still do well, but I don't think it's a matter of, having a franchise. And the whole idea was to build a franchise, start doing merchandising, do a whole lot of, peripheral stuff around the cricket also. I don't think that has really taken off. What has really taken off is television, broadcast, and viewership. Okay.
Correct.
And I think that is how it will remain for a long time. And marketers will continue to throng, whether it is being held in South Africa or Dubai or anything. As long as you get TV viewership, that $1 billion that has been spent by Star Sports will somewhere or the other get recouped.
Yeah, that's a good point that you make, okay? Because I think when you draw that comparison between the affinity towards or the loyalty towards a franchise that you see in EPL, I mean, we have Gogi Kapoor here sitting in a Manchester United T-shirt.
Yeah. There you go.
None of us have. I'm sure none of us have, and I think there are a lot of cricket fiends here. None of us have any, any T-shirt or any stuff which has their favorite IPL team logo on it. Because I think it's not been marketed well. The attachment is limited to those 45 days or 50 days or whatever when the IPL happens. So primarily, what you're saying, LK, is it's basically because of eyeballs. It's where the people are. Since they're glued to television at that point of time, this is the best medium
it's
to
the
sort of
season.
put your brand.
I was just say it's the season. इस सीजन में यहाँ पे मछली पाई जाती है, वहाँ जाके फिशिंग करो. उसके बाद सीजन खत्म हो जाएगा, कहीं और जाके मछली ढूंढेंगे.
Wonderful.
That's how it is.
LK made one point, Giraj, if I may chip in, about this hero worship thing. And here I'd like to give one dimension again as an advertiser. What cricket has provided is this pan-India appeal. So he's made a very correct point. You see, Chennai Super Kings is not the favorite of only the Chennai Vasis or people down south of Vindhyas. Okay. I being in Calcutta, I can be also rooting for that. And the same thing we found when I had signed on Dhoni very early. He was then not into that league. When I did we did a minor research to do, we found even in Bollywood, the only actor who straddled across India those days was Amitabh Bachchan. Everybody else was linked to a certain region, whereas Dhoni, or as a cricketer, he had an all-India appeal. So when you come to these advertisers and the eyeballs thing, although there is this little element of what LK said, Bangalore hota hai, to Bangalore mein crowd hota hai. But generally, when you as an advertiser, you again don't look at, ये हमारा market है, तो यहाँ पे A team करने से there I'll get some mileage, because it's again it's all over, so you're looking at purely on the eyeball scores. Sorry.
No, cool. I think that's a point. I think I'll now move on to Shekhar. Shekhar, I think
Giraj, sorry to interrupt, but quick count of who all are wearing yellow today. At least
I am wearing yellow.
I'm like it's nearly yellow, but to Sandeep's
so I'm
point,
wearing
I think
yellow.
I
you
can see
Chitra is wearing
Sanjay.
yellow.
Sanjay, Bala. So I think 5 of us, right?
Yeah.
And I can't make out who. The others are kind
Nari
of.
also wearing yellow. Nari, you're also wearing yellow.
Yeah.
You're on mute, Nari.
I'm wearing it.
So CSK is winning this, right? CSK is winning it, right?
So is that a prediction, Chitra?
Well, no, I meant in terms of brand loyalty.
Yeah, I understand.
CSK.
Well, CSK is already struggling. I think the first challenge, right? I mean, one of the players is COVID positive.
No, and also I think Suresh Rana has withdrawn. I don't know if he's the player who's affected with COVID. He's withdrawn. Okay, I'll go to Shekhar. Shekhar, we have this. So since we're talking a lot about IPL, so an uncapped player also needs to get a chance to speak. So Shekhar, will you take on?
I have a limited point. The point is that I have not seen this topic only related to IPL. I have seen this topic related to cricket.
All right.
The question intended that is would brands bat for cricket? So I am a big one for sports sponsorships. I believe strongly in that theory that sports sponsorships work very well, and cricket in India will certainly work very well. However, I feel that brands should be related with the game and not as much as a celebrity or as or with a player like a Ronaldo or like a Sachin or like a Dhoni or like a Messi. This is I see a couple of my colleagues here who did mention about it. I feel that we must, if brands want to think about their equity on a longer term, they must look at the game in totality rather than individuals. This is what I would say, and I feel that cricket is a great vehicle for sponsorships, great vehicle for brand. And another point which I was trying to look at was a brand fit, which somebody mentioned, which is very true. I would rather have um, um, a company like I would not look at a company like Ambuja Cement, or I would not look at a company like NatWest, though it's quite popular there as a bank. But Victoria Bitters, yes, a beer brand for cricket. So these are things that I would as a brand manager, I would look at. If I have to associate with the game, I would not just look at the number of eyeballs. I would also look at how associated I am with the game. This is what I would like to do.
So you mentioned, Shekhar, from the brand manager's point of view. You're not talking from the one who is marketing the game. It's not that when you're selling the sponsorship, you would look for those kind of fits. You're talking as a marketing manager or a brand manager when you're looking for options. That's the fit which you would.
Yeah, because I saw this point. I saw this topic from that perspective. I saw this topic whether a brand should associate itself with the game. This is how I looked at it, because I that's what I read from the topic. So I stuck to that.
Shekhar, one point there is it also depends on the evolution of the brand and also the brand, what you would call the association or connect. If say Levers is advertising, Levers will never advertise Lux with cricket, or that they will stick to a Lifebuoy, etc., because they have gone up the evolution thing more, and they know this is the kind of positioning I have, and this brand will. But you gave the example of an Ambuja. There is hardly any connect with the that kind of association with, and I told you they are targeting more the dealer than the consumer. So if they don't have, therefore they are looking only at visibility, and for them, whether they do wall painting on the road and or this, they will just see the ROI and see what visibility they are getting.
I get your point. I am not denying what you're saying. I'm just saying from a strategic point, from a brand perspective,
absolutely,
it's better to have an overall association rather than just look at the eyeballs and visibility. That's my point.
All right, I think I go to Nari now. Nari, what is your viewpoint? You heard what LK said. You heard what Sandeep said, and you've now heard what Shekhar is to say. What do you think?
I think the 2-3 key points. One is that everybody is looking at cricket through the lens of it's a sport. It's a sport and it has its own mythology and all the accusations we heard about when M.A.D.D came on when Max broadcast about dumbing it down and all that. Now forget all that. Cricket, it's as seen on TV, is not cricket as played on the field. So I think we should consider that it's cricket as seen on TV. And secondly, compared to any other sport, and this is the reason why Kerry Packer apparently started this, is that the sheer inventory of ads that you can have in a game is highest in cricket. You can't do that in football or tennis. Or every over you have an ad, and therefore there is a huge amount of inventory that's possible. Add that to what LK's point was that the whole thing about cricket fever started only after India had started to do well, and therefore call it the hero thing, call it India does well, whatever. That frisson of feeling good on seeing an Indian victory or on seeing a success of one of these guys is what drives these viewership, along with very specific good marketing. In fact, cricket marketing, probably Sony, when they got the whole thing done and they specifically went after female audiences, was a marketing success. I mean, we were tracking that at the time, and very clearly, women coming on board to view that was much higher. But I think the real problem with cricket now is the point that somebody else made. That EPL has been troubling television broadcasters and brands now for about 15 years. Yeah, and what happens to cricket as a result of that? And now with Kabaddi has also succeeded in terms of having a league and essentially on television having a content that can attract advertising. So I think cricket. My view is that it's going to be quite a while, but I don't know whether it has got that early 2000s kind of sheer affinity that it built, especially with ODIs, as distinct from 2020s, but particularly an IPL like 2020, where the brands are simply too smeared to either build a tribal affinity from your place of location or any other such team level affinity. You can have an individual player whom you kind of follow, and there is no clear answer to whether it is the player or the team. But the affinity building on IPL has been very, very, very poor.
Right.
I think people are jumping up and down to go buy material. Merchandising material for IPL. A lot of guys gave up and have gone back just last year. Nike, I think, has now stopped and wound up and split. So this point to the fact that merchandise is not selling, so that affinity at a team level is low. The viewership is essentially as content and as sort of engaging content that's not very demanding. It's important. Even if you package and sell classical music or opera this way, you're going to have so much of crowd. No. So you need an engaging but not terribly demanding content, and cricket fits in just brilliantly.
Wonderful. I think that one very significant point. Yeah. No, one significant point that you made, Nari, was also about the duration. That it engages you for more than what a football would engage you, or a hockey would engage you for example. I think and
opportunities, Giraj, that's the real point. The sheer number of ads that you can throw in a 4-hour viewer window, 3-hour viewer window, which is what a World Cup game also has.
It's also got to do with the way the game is. So there is this change of side after every over, which is a very good slot for advertising. And I think when they were running out short of they had too many people, too many advertisers wanting to advertise. They brought in that stupid thing called as a strategic timeout, where they can get a 2-minute window to put in more ads. So that, of course, is a significant thing that's happened with IPL, and it works to the advertiser advantage.
Do you remember the name of this electrical company that was sponsoring that when the third umpire thing. Does anybody remember that? When in the early days when there was electricity.
Hawkeye.
Sorry?
No?
No, it used to be appearing on the thing where this guy says, ask for the third umpire.
Was it a
review.
stabilizer company? I think we Stabilo or something like that.
No, that was CP Plus. I think CP Plus Super Wala Sab Dekh
At
Raha
the
Hai.
time
They
when
did that.
I was running Indica Research, that's the time that I actually looked at sponsoring that. Because that's absolutely the neutral evaluator, and so it's a kind of fitted in with the research companies thing to take your point on how the game should associate with that. So other than that, not all brands get equal value. Not all brands get. Advertisers don't bother at all. What are the ambience of the advertising? The sequence of advertising that is shown, what are the brands out there? Is it is there at least some coherent theme to the target groups? So it is just essentially one large festival. And people
it is, and I think also coming back to the point that Sandeep made, I think that's a fantastic point that anybody who's handled trade network would say that it is something about for want of a better word called Okat, that suddenly the brand is the Okat of associating itself with cricket, and that I think carries a lot of weight in trade networks. Okay, we come to Rajappa. Rajappa, you've been quiet. Why don't you sort of give us your perspective as somebody who's being a sports person yourself, being a cricketer yourself, and spent 30 years in advertising?
Well, I think I've been hearing all these perspectives. I think we have covered most of the basic fundamental issues really in terms of the event itself and cricket as a property. I believe when you look at events and any other big property, which is something which an advertiser can piggyback on, there are actually very few. I mean, like what LK said, it's about, finding talab kahan hai and where can you go and fish. So when you're looking at TRP, you're looking at eyeballs and how they are moving, cricket definitely presents you the best of both worlds. Because like I think most of the people said, I think it's about getting the Okat. If you advertise on IPL, you are right. Because it's a phenomenally expensive proposition. And if you've really got the Okat to advertise on IPL, that means as a brand, you have arrived. But like I think I think you were talking about Nari, I think he had mentioned about whether all the advertisers really get the bang for the buck. Certainly they don't. I mean, there is a lot of, prestige involved and association involved with IPL, but not many of them really derive the best mileage. So I will look at two parts. Like one, what you had really raised in terms of whether brands score with IPL or cricket. Definitely they do score with IPL at a very, very basic level in terms of establishing a popular connect with the mainstream. You do get eyeballs. And the bigger part, you don't alienate anybody. You alienate few, right? I think you associate with the Arnab kind of a show. You might associate with some, but you will alienate many. I think when you're looking at a brand's association, it's also the environment which is extremely important. So what an IPL or a cricket property presents to you is the best of both worlds. A sporting event, which is bringing you celebrities, it's getting you a lot of glamour, and it's also getting you skills. So when you're seeing people hitting 4s and 6s and a terrific catch getting taken, so there are lots of properties which can be leveraged, but unfortunately they've not been leveraged. Like I think everybody shared that the connect with the local teams are very poor. The connect or how they have marketed it has been very poor. So that's true because IPL as a property is pretty strong, but the individual association with the local teams have not been that strong.
Correct.
I think in a way they have really not gone all out to really leverage that.
Correct.
So it's purely up to the market here.
Yeah. I think on that, I think we'll go to Raj. Raj, you've been wanting to say something, and you've been also an insider. You've been an insider with Delhi Daredevil. So why have the brands not, or why have the franchises not leveraged and why is it that they are absolutely quiet for about about 10 months in the year, and they seem to wake up only when when IPL is just about to begin?
Raj, there are better qualified people than me to speak about that. But I will answer that. I will definitely answer that as far as the best way I can. But before that, I think we should look at why cricket has become the game it has. Hockey went on the decline. Color TV came in 1982 thanks to the Asian Games. Then Kapil Dev and his team won the World Cup. So there was great timing as far as cricket is concerned. Cricket got on the rise. It started winning in Australia, went and won in England. So cricket did get the eyeballs because the team started winning. And it played 100 days in a year. The hockey team doesn't play 100 days in a year. The football team doesn't play 100 days in a year. As a nation, we want India to be doing well. We want Indians to be doing well. Look at Leander Paes and Mahesh Bhupati. They were world number one. But how many of us got to watch any of their matches on television? We did not get enough. They are superstars in their own right. They were world number one. They won a number of series on the ATP Tour and then won Grand Slam titles as well. Are they any less than the cricketers? They're not. I think we were sold football by the television company. I used to work for one. I ran a website for a television company. And the way they sold football to the masses is incredible. In the year 2000, 2001, they went and distributed trading cards to schools. Those kids are today in a position to buy a Manchester United t-shirt, for example, or maybe a scarf or even a mug. So your money is actually going to support Manchester United. You're buying a scarf, and that money, a part of it is going to England. You're supporting English football. You're supporting Spanish football. You're supporting German football. That is what television companies have done to us. They are the new East India Company. They have sold international sport to us, telling us that, look, this is the best in the world. You have a number of Hollywood channels on cable and satellite television, but Bollywood still thrives. The Tamil film industry thrives. That is because, as a nation, consumers have never neglected the Bollywood industry or the Tamil film industry. But we have stopped supporting our sports. Look at our newspapers. You will not find any news of Indian sport at all. Messi and Ronaldo, Messi wanting to leave his team, whichever team that is, I don't care. He's wanting to leave a team, half a page of Times of India is taken up by that. That is because television drives content. We have stopped caring for Indian sport. We do care for cricket. Only when the Indian team is playing. Tell me, which brand do we all recall? We were struggling to recall the third umpire, the brand that the TV umpire was. These are all marketing wizards sitting here, and there is no brand recall. IPL is here now, Ayaram and Gayaram. Nobody remembers anything of IPL. Nobody remembers scores. Nobody remembers sponsors. Nobody remembers anything of IPL. It's just fun, entertainment here and now. This is what Art of Living should be telling the world. Mindfulness. They're talking about mindfulness. IPL is mindfulness. Nobody remembers the next day because matches happen day in and day out, and nobody remembers what happened the previous day. Nobody cares because this is fun. This is entertainment, and it is not to be taken seriously. But brands fall over IPL because television is making the way it is. If television doesn't invest so much money in IPL, you will see other sports rising. I think as a nation, we need to start supporting other sport as well. We've got some terrific talent. How many of us go and sponsor Neeraj Chopra, India's best athlete today?
Correct. Yeah.
Likely to win, definitely to get into the Olympic Games final next year, and likely to win an Olympic medal. Has got the potential, but do we back him? No, we don't. How much do we get to see him on television? We don't get to see him at all. India's greatest name, perhaps, in terms of Olympic sport is Abhinav Bindra, the only man with an individual gold medal. We have never seen him shoot on television, except in 2010 Commonwealth Games, 2014 Commonwealth Games and Asian Games, 2016. Once in 2 years, we get to see him on television. As consumers, we have never demanded that we want to see a particular Indian play on our television sets. The day consumers start asking for this, I think we will see a difference in how sport is run in this country. Match fixing came in the year 2000. One of my best friends was named there. We grew up in the same city of Hyderabad. I was perhaps the most hurt because I saw his name and he's a dear friend. But it did not affect cricket. It did not affect the way television supported cricket. Mandira Bedi came along with Charu Sharma and brought in a whole new audience. And that audience still is sitting with cricket. It has not moved from there. I think the fact that television drives content, not just for itself, but also in newspapers, is the most significant thing that I have learned in the last 20 years or so. Also, Girag, you mentioned 1 minute you get between overs. No other sport offers you this. Tennis is the closest you get to a changeover where people are sitting for a minute and a half and you can show some commercials. Hockey doesn't pause. Football doesn't pause for commercials like cricket does. It is a very lazy-paced game in terms of action, but you get plenty of advertising time, and that is the reason why it has gone to the top. There is no other reason why it is supported so much. I think, from my understanding, brands do not do enough research on whether IPL advertising brings them a return on investment. I have not read a single decent article, a single decent research paper on how brands have researched and then said, okay, we are going to invest extra money here. What from the outside, okay, I'm not talking as an insider, from the outside, if you buy KKR, you get Shah Rukh Khan for free. If you buy Mumbai Indians, you get Sachin Tendulkar for free. If you buy RCB, you get India's captain Virat Kohli for free. If you buy Mumbai Indians, you got Tendulkar. If you buy Chennai Super Kings, you got Dhoni. If we were so personality driven, Anil Kumble would be the richest star in this country. Nobody won more matches for India than Anil Kumble. But I don't think he got enough sponsorship deals at all. We are a blind nation. We just follow the herd. Everybody is going in one direction. We want to do in that direction. I hope someday somebody does research and stops sport from, especially European sport, from becoming the new East India Company. A lot of our money is being repatriated to Europe. They don't need our support. Spain changes its kickoff time. The Spanish league kickoff time is changed to suit us, to suit the Indian audiences.
Okay.
You imagine they're playing in peak heat. Their kickoff is at 11:30 or noon. Nobody else in the world does this. They want our money and we're willingly giving it to them without realizing it. My dad used to say every can of Pepsi, my dad was a sports journalist too, and he says every can of Pepsi that we would buy, 1 rupee would go to Sachin Tendulkar. So why should Pepsi cost 10 rupees? Why can't it be 5 rupees?
That's a very, very different angle.
No, I'm not getting deep into that, but I'm hoping, Giraj, through some of these people here, some serious research will happen and then they decide whether advertising in IPL is good for their brand or not. From the outside, nobody will recall a brand that was associated with Delhi Capitals, let's say, over the last 10 years. When I was media manager of the site, we had Muthoot Group. I don't even know who the prime sponsor of the team for this year is. There has been no talk of it. It is just 6 weeks of tamasha, and even for the sponsor, because win or lose, you're getting that television time. Even if your team is finishing 8th, you're getting to play 14 matches. 14 matches into 3 hours. So about 42 hours, you get your brand on television. And that is what people are paying for. They're not paying for teams. They're not paying for players. They're saying 42 hours on television, my brand is getting exposed. I really, really wish that we start investing a little bit on research and doing very honest job with sport, supporting sport in this country. I'm not here to make a pitch for Olympic sport, but I wish some of the people here will look at Olympic sport and start forcing the consumer to think in terms of supporting Indian sport. At the moment, Star Sports and Sony and all are telling us, look at European sport, look at golf from around the world, look at tennis from around the world, look at Formula One, look at NBA. Kids wake up at 3:30 in the morning to watch NBA.
Yeah, but I think those guys, I think that's a different point, Raj, because those guys are also now
Giraj,
making effort at the ground level, you know.
Giraj, a point to this
Yeah.
is it's not necessarily the skill of the sportsman, like the point that he made about Kumble versus somebody else being, it's about really the entire package of the celebrity, how controversial he is, that the brand tends to associate with. So he may be a performer on field, but if he is not a complete personality who really is something who will give you that zing in the brand and gives you a differentiation and relevance with that segment of user, then you don't really ride with him. See, there are many intangibles which go with this whole thing, right? I mean, we cannot generalize this whole thing because I do believe that unless and until the brands are going to get a buck out of cricket, they are not going to support it. I'll give you a very, very simple personal, experience on this. You all would know Parle, right? Yeah. As a brand. Now, 80% of Parle's sales actually comes from glucose, the Parle G, right? I think Parle G is a big player in the popular segment, whereas both Britannia and ITC have really taken on the premium segment. So the contribution and the profitability that they enjoy, which they could invest in advertising, was big ticket. The only initial efforts that we made towards premiumization in Parle was when we launched Hide and Seek. Then we actually saw a huge opportunity when 2020 got launched. I think we were using that 2020 to really get it, because Parle was looking to launch into the specific segment of Good Day, the cookies segment, which was extremely profitable. So we launched a brand called 2020, right? We couldn't match the marketing muscle of a Britannia or ITC because they have deep pockets. Parle never used to really believe in IPL, the 2020 or cricket to an extent, because they felt it was not really up to them to get in there and invest big money into that sport initially, because it was too expensive. And here we launched a brand called 2020 with the 2020, cricket that started coming in. And we came up with 20-second commercials, right? I think we did 3 commercials. One was called the Toss. One was a coronation. And there was one which was about the 2 commentators interacting. I think most of you might have seen it. It was a very short commercial which basically said, don't give too much gyan, short mein niptao. So it was a short version of the bigger game. So anybody who was really, the storyline went into anybody really going into giving some gyan, the other guy will say short mein niptao. So there was a toss done, and then the guy who won the toss got the cup. So what we saw was, in an extremely mature category like, the cookie market, we were able to become a number 2 brand in that because we rode on IPL. And actually, whatever they had really planned for the first 1 year, the entire thing got offtake happened within 3 months. So they ran short of their entire stock, and they had to really go on an overdrive to really start producing. And that's when really a huge shift happened in terms of their moving towards premiumization. So it depends on what you want to do with the sport. I mean, it's presenting an opportunity to everybody. It's about how you use that opportunity.
Yeah, I think Raj has raised some very, very pertinent points. I think one statement that he made is that he's called all the entire marketing fraternity as lethargic, that they do not sort of.
Yeah, there's a lot of lazy marketing which happens. Yeah. Because it's very simple to put an ad and then buy a sponsorship on it and not do your.
May I just interject here? I think what Raja was saying, one cannot but agree with it. But there is some amount of emotionality in what he said, and there's some bit of pardon the use of the word, but there's a little bit of nationalism in what he was talking about. Okay. Unfortunately, the sentiment, while I can agree with, if I am a head of marketing or head of brand management inside a company, I'm in a very mercenary world. Okay, and I have to fight tooth and nail within my organization for every rupee of the budget that I have, and everybody in the organization is watching me, the sales organization, the finance organization, कि ये इस पैसे का क्या करने वाला है, इतना बड़ा budget ले लिया इसने, right? And when it comes to really patronizing sports in terms of helping them to develop, etc., it's the prerogative of the biggest gun in the corporation. So somebody like Anand Mahindra or somebody like Ambani, they will take a call. Do I want to sink money into a particular sport? I mean, Hero is spending money on actually developing football. Okay.
Also golf.
And yeah, and so on, right? But a poor marketing manager who's in charge of that year's 55 crore of budget for media advertising, he's not going to be looking at saying that, oh ho, मेरा देश खतरे में है, मेरे को ना इधर खर्चा करना चाहिए क्योंकि Mr. Bindra has won a gold. Yeah, he might still decide to get Bindra into an advertising spot because it works for him, right? But he's going to be thinking like a mercenary, not like an ideal Indian manager who's also promoting. He has to promote himself. He has no business promoting, or he has to promote his brand, in which case he will promote himself for his next promotion to become VP marketing or something like that. He has no time to really think about कि मैं अपने देश को promote कर रहा हूँ. I guess that's how capitalism works, right? So I think that our discussion can easily get sidetracked if we talk from the point of view of how do we promote certain sports. Rather, I think the discussion that we're talking about is, do brands get a kick out of cricket?
Exactly.
And if so, why and how? Okay. In fact, Rajappa touched upon it, and I think this might be the right time for people to discuss, do our marketers have the capability to fully exploit the opportunity given to them by something like cricket? And let's remain at cricket. Okay. Do marketers in India, by and large, have the capability to decide why and when to get into this sport, how to utilize that sport, how to activate beyond the TV spots, and how to get the best bang for their buck? A lot of people actually don't. A lot of people just come under pressure saying, yaar, hamara competitor IPL pe hame bhi hona chahiye. I've heard this inside LG. Right, this huge pressure inside LG saying, oh, Voltas is going to be on IPL, hum kaise nahi ja sakte? And then it becomes that prestige thing कि India में सबसे बड़ी चीज ये हो रही है, how come we are not on IPL? And they are also getting pressured by other people, such as their trade. Or various things work like this, or they have their eyes on this, that IPL में हम भी sponsorship करेंगे, then we will get seats also, and we will take our trade for seats, and let's pressurize the head of marketing to get into IPL because and because he carries a lot of budget. Hello, what is he going to do with this budget, right? So there's a whole lot of pressures, and maybe even the lack of understanding of how am I going to use this to get my best bang for the buck. I think that is something that this forum might want to decide. Do we have the capability, or do majority people have the capability to really exploit this phenomenon?
You make a very good point, what you're saying. So in a nutshell, I will say the marketeers of IPL, whether it's the media agencies, or they have done a better job than the marketing managers who have taken a lazy route out. And I'm saying with cricket, as you are saying. So within cricket also, these people have been able to package and tell you this precisely what you're saying, that ये लेने से आपका दो home ground आपका वहाँ पे है, आप वहाँ पे ले जा सकते हो, and package it in that manner. Whereas a brand manager doesn't think beyond IPL. There are many other cricket properties also. Who promotes today a regional cricket? When we were young, Ranji Trophy was a big thing. But today,
but no money.
That's what I'm saying.
Zero money.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the whole situation today. So if somebody wants to promote that.
Yeah, Sanjay, you've been wanting to say something. Yeah, Sanjay, carry on.
So what I mean to, if we go back to the topic and said, the topic is, do brand really score by betting into IPL? So the answer should come from research. Now, whether it has affected the brand or the sales, ultimately you are working as we read somewhere that everybody company is a sales, is to increase the sales. So the answer of this today's topic should come from research, whether that period the sales have gone up or whether you have improved the consideration part, preference part of the brand. Commonsensically, of course, where you will get the fishes are. So I call IPL. I do not come mainline part, but I come from an offline or on ground advertising activation part. So the Kumbh happened in Allahabad. Every brand, you think of every brand to be there, whether they want to make money, make ROI or not. Now, if I'm small time brand manager or active manager, I would insist my bosses or my boss will insist their bosses to convince you should have your stall, you should be in the Kumbh. Similarly, the same parallel you can draw with IPL. IPL is a Kumbh. It's not called a cricket extravaganza. It's a marketing event basically. So it's safe to put your money there, because if you are putting as a market, you are putting your money, nobody is going to question you, because IPL is big. If you brand there, it must have some money. But the answer is the question is yet to be answered.
All right.
Do
Sanjay, we'll take that. I think
do the two brand really get benefited from the IPL?
we will look at that. I think there's a point on ROI that you raised and that we've been talking about. Tanmay has been wanting to say something on the ROI. Tanmay, if you're there, if you can sort of unmute yourself and say what you're saying about ROI.
Yeah, Giraj. Yeah, thanks. I'm just reminded of a similar kind of sponsorship and activation challenge that I have faced in my career when I was handling the global Ducati relationship for Shell, and also sponsoring MotoGP title sponsorships in various races. See, the biggest challenge that we face is that these kind of investments are just opportunities for us to then do something about it. And a lot of times we have found that in a lot of these countries where we were trying to activate, there just isn't enough planning that goes through sufficiently in advance to be able to fully exploit relationships like this. So for example, if IPL is coming today, then ideally activation should have started 6 months back. You have to be running an entire trade program around, culminating in the championship that is happening. You have to run a consumer program. Whatever your target groups are, you need to start activating them sufficiently in advance. And only then will you start getting ROI. Because in the end, if you are just activating for that period of time, then you are maybe getting a short-term boost in sales or in brand preference, which is not going to last at all. So what we were, we did quite a bit of work around, how you evaluate budgets like this. And, typically the ratio is that whatever you are spending behind sort of these opportunity openers, you have to set aside 5x in terms of activating them on the ground. So unless you don't do that, you can just forget about
yeah, but then cricket sponsorship is so expensive that
that's right. So I was
hardly
coming,
leaves you with something beyond.
I was coming to that. So I think the specific challenge with IPL, and this is going back to what LK had also said, is that IPL participation or that door opener has become so expensive that it is unviable to fully exploit it, because you're not left with any more money, right? And then going back to what LK was saying, the alternatives that Raj was talking about in terms of other sports or other leagues maybe, or like somebody said, Ranji and so on, it's not because of nationalism that you might want to consider it. It is purely because of ROI. Because in the end, they are much cheaper to get you access, and then you spend the majority of your budgets in activating them. Because in the end, it is just excess fee, what you are paying in terms of trying to either get on, IPL TV spots or, IPL team sponsorships and so on. If you're not doing anything with it and just doing it at that and then thinking that eyeballs is going to solve your problem and is going to get you brand impact or sales impact, then that you are living in a fool's paradise.
Fair. No,
I
that's a
have,
valid point.
yeah,
Yeah.
Kiraj, if
Yeah.
I may come in here, I agree with Tanmay's point about, having to have a activation to get the bang for the buck, right? But I disagree about the cost, because now in the era of digital, you can do a lot with social media, and which can complement what you're doing on the IPL property, say, or so I mean, it shouldn't you shouldn't really be constrained by cost. So I think Coca-Cola, for instance, does the whole 360-degree very well, in terms of, you see them on digital on almost all the social media platforms, which kind of synergizes with what they're saying on their television campaign. And I think small quizzes, etc., you can hook people there. You have to, I mean, I agree to the point that it has to be a 360-degree, but you can still do it inexpensively. I mean, in a
Sorry,
way.
so Chitra, I'll just respond to that. It is my belief that while social and digital is something that is touted as an inexpensive way of doing things, actually, in terms of cost per reach, social is much more expensive than you would get if you were to just go on TV and so on. So to be able to truly activate at a mass level, if you are thinking that social is going to do that, then it is not. Social just allows you to sort of maybe create programs for the boardroom, because you are able to demonstrate कि मैंने इस तरह से activate किया, उस तरह से activate किया. But in total impact terms, social is still way either behind in terms of ROI, or much more expensive if you were to try to reach the same kind of audience.
Yeah, I think
So
your
I
cost
would
per
say
click
that
versus CPM is a big difference there.
that's right. That's right. Yeah. So
Correct.
I still think that excess fee. If you think about IPL as an excess fee, and then try and correlate it with some of the other sports that are out there, I think for the brand you can do a far better job of truly getting impact for your brand if you were to consider other sports alternatives. And sports is a great area. Because it incites passion and so on, and you are connecting at a much deeper level. But I think IPL is kind of pricing itself out in the market.
Actually, Tanmay, LK here. Actually, Tanmay, we've been thinking, and I was part of this whole bandwagon that got onto IPL very early when it started. We've been saying that IPL is outpricing itself forever, and it is not. And it keeps expanding the net of the advertisers who come in. Initially, it used to be just male-dominated brands or the summer brands, so to say. And every year, you find newer and newer audiences coming in, and therefore newer and newer brands coming in. Who would have thought? I mean, initially, at least, we never thought that. But 3-4 years later, we suddenly see the feminine brands of Lever coming and advertising on IPL and say, "Wow, man, ye bhi din dekhna tha." But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that there are two big things that actually then determine whether you get onto cricket today in India. And when I say cricket, I don't mean the Ranji or anything or test matches even. I mean the big boys cricket, where the maximum eyeballs all of India just spends time glued with. Those people who brands or managers who have big budgets to afford the cover charge to just come in. And secondly, categories that depend a lot perhaps on share of voice in advertising. Okay. They will find that they will get their ROI because, like you said, in terms of cost per eyeball, cricket and mass cricket in India works very well. Okay. The only thing is that the moment you start thinking in terms of very idealistically exploiting this opportunity, that 360-degree activation on ground in retail, online, etc., then very few people, ikka dukka do char log hain is pure country mein who have the kind of money and the kind of brain power to actually do something like this. So for most of the people, it's going to be if your category does not depend on share of voice in this particular time period, okay, don't need to get onto it. But if you really have that kind of money and you must have that share of voice, go ahead, do IPL. You'll get your ROI in terms of eyeballs, and for that season, you will get your brand recall, you'll get your walk-ins into your retail, and possibly you might even get a better market share, given that you do the job well. Yeah, just given, even on TV, even making good spots, utilizing your opportunity of frequency and so on. Okay, then you're fine. Otherwise, you're just going to waste 20, 30 crores.
No, people do that. LK, I think that's a good point that you make. I think in terms of content, a lot of people, a lot of brands you've seen, they try and force fit themselves with cricket. They have nothing to do with cricket. They're just there for the sake of eyeballs. But then because it's IPL, they want to sort of fit themselves, fit the message with the event, and that's where they make a mess of themselves. So what you say is right. How you spend that money also is important. With that, we come to Hemant. Hemant has been quiet for a while. Hemant, your perspective on this. If you can unmute Hemant and say a few things. You'll have to unmute, yeah.
Well, okay, let me go back. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So I come from a PR perspective. Yeah, thanks. I come purely from a PR perspective, and which in those days was not paid for like it is today. You can buy media, you can buy editorial media. So let me give you a small little experience of what I had. When I was working with a PR agency. And at that time, we cracked one of India's biggest PR clients, which was Coca-Cola. 96, 97, they were coming into India. And they actually, got the title rights for the 96 World Cup, which was held in India, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka, if I mistake not. And what we did was from a PR perspective, and, it was a great campaign. We did whatever we normally do it from a PR perspective in the sense, connect with the media, absolutely influencers is what I'm talking about, which also is a very, very big part of marketing and for every brand manager. And I do remember, it was a huge success. We did something called, Wish India Best of Luck. We did this cricket bat, which moved all across the country, blah, 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 blah. World Cup was over, 96 was gone. And then we had to come back to them with something which would engage consumers. And at that point in time, we started a property, and I played a big role being a former cricketer. At that time, I was actually playing cricket, A division in Bombay, I remember. And we started a property called the Coca-Cola Youth Cup. So which basically took, the whole experience of that big bottle. If anybody remembers those telecasts, the Mark Mascarenhas time telecasts, when Tony Gregg and company came into India for the first time to sort of commentate. Rajaraman, I remember, used to be in the press box in those days. So, we got that whole experience of, actually the World Cup kind of thing into, the ground, as in like, where the schoolboys were playing. So we just didn't limit it to one particular area. So, those days, Punjab was the biggest and still is, from what I understand, the biggest market for colas for that category. And Bombay, of course, was a big, Mumbai, was big. Bangalore, there was no Coke being sold in those days. So Chennai. So what we did is we started this with this tournament, basically to engage the young kids with Coca-Cola as an after effect. Now they'd obviously seen a lot of ads, from Coke, and of course in those days there was no bar to guerrilla marketing. So you had nothing official about it done by Pepsi. So the whole cola boost, the whole cola segment, from what I remember, got a huge boost. And then what we decided is to keep the consumer engaged. And our consumer was obviously the kid. It was never the middle-aged guy. Like, for example, if none of us are wearing IPL t-shirts because we are not the IPL target audience. We are like also ran kind of audience. That's what I understand. Having said that, that's what we did. And we did it for 2 years until obviously they overspent. Coca-Cola overspent hell of a lot, Coca-Cola India. And then they sort of just let go the tournament. And unfortunately, the agency that I was working with in those days did not patent this idea. So then I believe Anil Singh and company, I don't know what they call themselves, the guys who do the marathon, they took up this and then they sold it to Parlay, they sold it to this called the Youth Cup. So idea is that you need to do something to engage the audience more than anything else. To me, IPL and somebody, I don't know the names here, so please pardon me. But until happens, no does anything 6 months before and after. Absolutely nobody does any campaign. It's nothing to do with budgets. The question is that I don't think there's a will to do it. I think it's just dekho, enjoy, boost karo, tumhare sales, whatever, and get out. See, I'm not a media planner, so I don't know how media planning works. I worked with a lot of brand managers. I've also worked on the Nike campaign, 2011, the World Cup, which was held in India. And that's the same time they sort of took the same idea that we had given Coke in 96, which is, go inside a Nike showroom and, give your best wishes. But the difference was that Coke was giving best wishes to the Indian team rather than, Nike saying all the best, World Cup 2011, may India succeed, etc. See, engaging the consumer is very, very critical. I mean, from a PR perspective, at least, because what we care, or rather we look at, which we've always done, is we at that point in time, as I read it and I just repeat myself, we never paid anybody. Like when Sunil Gavaskar came and signed the bat in Delhi, he wasn't paid anything. Neither was any of the former cricketers, any of those 1983 heroes who came in Bombay, Mohinder Amarnath, Shrikant, whoever those days had won the trophy for India. So it was all a free campaign. The point I'm trying to make is that developing properties is critical. Today we are, pardon me, today we are just piggybacking, all of us, whether it's brand managers, whether it's advertisers, media planners, PR guys like us. We are piggybacking on what is available. And so that makes it very difficult. I mean, trust me, there is nobody who's created a campaign saying, dude, this is my campaign. And we tried that with Coke. We did that. It was successful. Okay. And unfortunately, their whole brand concept of, getting out of cricket. And then they got back again. After 2 years, they went and sponsored a tournament for which they paid money. And they paid Anil Singh Procam, if I'm mistaken, not money to do this tournament, which was they got free of charge from their agency. So I think engaging a consumer, which people talk about having conversations today, in today's day and age, or maybe last year, I don't know how marketing jargons work, but what we did then was actually engaging with the customer and actually having a chat with the kids. So they got experiential thing. Having said that, of course, little away from sports, I was also involved for many years with Viacom. I used to be the head of communications for NTV India. And that's exactly what we did with people. When it came to music, it was always about the Elton Johns and the Madonnas and the, all those guys, Michael Jacksons. And then we did research. We realized that Lata Mangeshkar and Asha Bhosle, Kishore Kumar were much bigger than these guys. And that's when we realized that, okay, we need to play Hindi music and not, still sell Steve Vai and Stevie Ray Vaughan, who we like. So we used to always call it, tumko rock music sunna, hum ghar pe aa jao, we've got it all. But on our channel, we're going to play what people want. And engaging with the customer was very, very critical. That's what we did with our marketing campaign. So that was a big learning for me. I mean, as somebody who's played the game, somebody who writes on the game religiously for the last 30 years almost, and somebody who was very fortunate to be associated with a company like a Coke, maybe Coca-Cola, or a Nike, or Emirates. I've worked on PR side on all these campaigns. So very, very few people. For example, let me give you a small little, just digressing, not digressing really. When Emirates came into India and they started sponsoring the ICC umpires, correct me if I'm wrong, they still sponsor the ICC umpires. We had suggested to them that why don't you have a special camp for umpires in India? Because please understand, we've got brilliant batsmen like Virat Kohli, we've got outstanding bowlers coming up like Jasprit Bumrah. We don't have a single umpire. Of late, after 5 years, there has been an umpire on the ICC elite panel. All we suggested to Emirates was, why don't you have a small camp for the umpires, probably call one of the ICC umpires on the panel and just do it. It would make it would influence people. So where I come from is all about influencing people, not from a paid perspective, but from, in those days, an unpaid perspective, which is a communications or a PR perspective. But unfortunately, I don't think they were really interested because they were associated with the 2011 World Cup, but they couldn't get bang for the buck because they didn't do anything at the end of the day. So all I'm saying is engage, whichever format you want to use communications as in PR, you want to do advertising, whatever, out of door or whatever they call it. As long as you engage consumers, that's important. And unfortunately, I don't see any brand which is associated with the IPL for the last 13 years.
One correction there, Hemant.
Never a little bit before, maybe a little bit after.
No, Hemant, one small correction there. I think when Raj was a part of Delhi Daredevils, we were associated with him in a small project where they used to do camps in schools and they did a tournament in school, and the best bowlers from that tournament used to come and bowl at the nets to the IPL players. So that I thought was a super initiative.
Yeah, but nobody knows that. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
You see, the point is that you got to amplify it.
Yeah, correct.
I know it was. Rajasthan Royals is doing it. Yeah. There are people like, for example, ISL, the Reliance guys who run ISL, they're doing it as well. But nobody knows about it because they don't talk about it. Yeah. You do something, please boast. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that people are not doing work.
Okay.
Kiसी को पता नहीं है ना क्या करोगे फिर? That's what I'm saying.
I think because of this cricket, I think we've got some. I think for the first time in M.A.D D, we've broken the 75-minute barrier. We've gone much beyond, and there are still some people who have not spoken. I would come to Sanjay Sarma to conclude. So Sanjay, hang on there. Before that, Jaya, you want to add something? You've been a patient listener.
Yeah, I think I'll just add. The first thing is that I used to love cricket, but I've given up even watching it because my husband just takes over everything when cricket happens. So for me, it's become a no-no. And therefore, I'm only going to talk from the perspective of branding.
So, but
What?
just now that you said something about Prasad, let me defend him in his absence. I think I have not seen a bigger fan. I used to think I'm a very big fan of cricket. I have not seen a bigger fan than Prasad. He can actually do a ball-to-ball narration of matches that he's seen as a kid in Chennai. So it's amazing. So please don't say anything against Prasad. I mean, completely
Sorry.
understandable. All
Sorry,
right,
sorry.
now carry on.
So now you all know I was saying exactly this. So I'm going to only stick to the branding part of it. I have very little to say there because a lot of things have already been discussed. I'm not going to be saying IPL because I'm looking at cricket as cricket. And therefore, before I say anything, I just wanted to ask, do you all remember the association of tennis? Which brand associates with tennis?
Psycho.
Let's say the
Psycho watches.
international tennis.
Yeah, there's Kia
Seiko
Motors.
watches.
There's Kia Motors in
There's
Australia.
Rolex.
There's Mercedes-Benz.
Rolex.
There is
IBM.
Rolex.
Seiko.
There is
IBM.
there's so many brands,
Right,
but
great.
depends which where tennis. So yeah.
This is the answer I was looking for. So if I say that we are all big fans of cricket and we've been watching cricket, IPL, this, that, and the other, which are the brands that you associate with cricket in India?
Interesting. I'd like to know.
Lovely. Wonderful, Jay.
I don't think you all can pick up anyone.
Well, I think,
Jay,
Jaya, I come from a different era. I mean, we all come from that era, I guess, which was the pre-television era of cricket, when we used to actually listen to the first few matches, waking up at 5 o'clock when India was playing in West Indies and listening to it in the radio. But I think the first images of actual brand associations with cricket that I have, and it is still, entrenched in my mind, is the Wills logo and the made for each other hoarding, which keeps changing in the stadium from the scorecard. And I think that is the most point image of how a brand associates with cricket, because made for each other also was about, cricket in India were like, made for each other. And
How can you guys? How can we guys forget BSNL Chokka?
Now, how can you forget Brill Cream? Hello.
No, just a minute. I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. I think I've hijacked a little bit of what Jaya was saying, but I think MRF came later. But I think ITC's association through Wills, a brand which otherwise was not allowed to advertise because of regulations, was, I think, one of the best associations from a branding point of view. And then, of course, there was Coke, Pepsi, Airtel, MRF, Palmolive, and there were a lot of them. Over to you, Jay.
No, it went on further, no, Sanjay? They went on to something called the Wills Trophy. There was a Wills Trophy also.
Yes, yes.
So if
they were the sponsors of the BCCI in those days. Wills.
Right.
So if I may, if I'm allowed to just finish what I was trying to get at.
Sorry.
No problems. It's interesting that we are remembering all those brands which actually was used association with cricket in our old days. So the old days were non-cluttered days, fewer advertising,
pre-IPL,
less clutter. Today, if you were to really sit back, close your eyes, say last year who sponsored, what were the ads, who came and associated itself with cricket, it will be hard to come up with the names. You may come up because you probably associate yourself with those brands and therefore you will say, this one. But in all probability, you will all be scratching our head saying, "Kaunsa brand tha?" So
I disagree, Jaya. I think Swiggy and PhonePe, I still recall, last year Swiggy and PhonePe were absolutely brilliant.
Brilliant campaign.
Brilliant. And I think the brand recall of PhonePe really...
and Vodafone Zuzu,
So you can actually...
You probably are remembering it, and I'm just going out on the limb saying this is because it was a brilliant campaign.
Yeah.
Point that I'm making is the association of a brand with a game, whichever game it could be. It could be cricket, it could be tennis, it could be kabaddi for that matter, and a lesser clutter and a larger money pot. And not to forget, an excellent campaign. If you have all of this, please go ahead for IPL. You will be seen. But if you are missing out on any of these things, there are chances that you're going to be missed out. So eyeball will go waste. We can keep looking at numbers and say, there are so many people looking at my ad. Absolutely. But I think that happens. And I think there are a lot of people who express this. I completely agree with them that You cannot be seen in a clutter till you have an excellent campaign, good pot of money, and sponsorship, especially for cricket, because all this, in the between the overs and between this and between that, there are lots of packages that are thrown around at us. But the best package that would work is you have the money, sponsor it. Go sole sponsor. I used to have a fight with Giraj. He said that for my trade, it's a great thing, a prestige. I want to understand which company would sit back and say, I'm going to spend money for prestige. You don't spend money for prestige. I'm sorry.
No, I didn't use the word prestige there. There's a difference between prestige and Okat. That's a difference. And I think I was only, this was not my point. I was only extending Sandeep Ghosh's point, So I think Sandeep, please defend yourself.
Okat,
Is Sandeep there? Please defend yourself.
If I have bank
Okay,
money with me,
I
I
do
will
want to
never.
say something here.
Yeah, please, LK, come in.
But this prestige thing, also
actually,
works.
I
LK, just
actually
one
want to say
minute.
this, that a lot of times, I'm going to speak from the point of view of a brand manager or a CMO.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of times the marketing department will come under pressure from sales saying that, this will really help me with the trade and so on and so forth. My answer to them is, listen, this is advertising money. You want me to spend 35 crores on doing a trade program? Why don't you go and ask the MD for 35 crores to do a trade program?
Absolutely.
Okay, go and do a trade program. You can spend maximum 2-3 crores and you can have a damn good trade program and take everybody to Hawaii or something and and all incentives, and you manage to do your sellings. But the problem that a marketing guy faces is that the entire organization wants him to do something for some other reason other than consumer marketing. That's a trap that you have to escape. I will never take this reason that we will do cricket sponsorships or spend crores and crores on cricket spots because the trade is happy. Trade happy is a fortunate byproduct, but cannot be the main reason ever.
All right. So
Sandeep,
Sandeep, why don't you defend yourself in this?
No, I was going to say what you said, Jaya, but ego is a big thing in these sort of things. I'll give you again a live example from this thing. I told you about our sponsoring Dhoni. So we sponsored him for one first contract, and then we had to renew the contract. Then we asked some people that what is the, what do you think? Did we get a bang for our buck? He said, I'm not too sure whether I got the bang for our bucks, but my counterpart, the marketing manager of this company, had told me, इन लोग के पास पैसा नहीं है, देखो एक बार कर लिया, अगले बार नहीं कर पाएंगे. इतना बोला, that has been, stuck with me. दोबारा करना ही चाहिए. Or there are some owners or promoters, उनका भी ये हो जाता है, because they are into that club that, my friend has sponsored one team. Okay, I can't be Mukesh Ambani, but I can still go and sponsor Rajasthan Royals, and I'm in that league. I will also go and sit in that box, etc. Some amount of
disagree.
I
Because
also
I feel
disagree.
you are.
Giraj has remained my friend till date. I know him since 80s, simply because I would never recommend pleasing the, promoter's friend or the trade or anybody else, because the money is for the brand. And if that money is allocated for brand, it has to go only and only for the brand. Create more money to do all the other PR stuff that you're looking for. You can't keep pulling from here and putting in there. It's not done.
Though that some people will have the, LK was telling earlier, sometimes a poor brand manager is just managing the thing, and if his boss, MD, chairman, calls him and says, no, I want to sponsor this, he sometimes doesn't have the option in certain organizations.
I would argue that more than 50% of investment in sort of big name tickets like this is what you are saying, Sandeep. Because it doesn't make sense from a brand ROI perspective, but yet people are doing it because it is prestige and you get access and you can talk about it and the trade is happy.
No, Tanmay, even ROI, I think that ROI point also comes in later. I think what Jay is referring to and what Edgar has been talking about is that intrinsically, you don't have to sort of spend that money because it doesn't work for the brand. Everything else. So
exactly.
why even get into that ROI debate? Anyway, so I think we're running really short of time. I'll quickly come to people who've not spoken. Dhananjay, you've been quiet. You want to add something to this? You will have to unmute. Dhananjay, you'll have to unmute.
I have had the good fortune of being associated with brand LG for 3 World Cups. they started sponsoring the ICC Games in the year 1999. And if you look at it, like some mentioned here on this forum, the level of evolution of the brand has much to do with taking such decisions. LG was launched in the year 1997. In 99, it made a lot of sense for them to sink money big time into this project in cricket, which was a fantastic vehicle to take them across the nation. So then it had its diminishing returns. It peaked in 2003 and 2007 when I think LK came in 2007.
Yes, yes, yes.
Returns had diminished. And also the fact someone else mentioned, like the activation part of it. When we did it for the first time in 99, the trade was involved 6 months or maybe 5 months prior to the World Cup happening. And there were trade schemes where people had to buy a certain quantity to participate in it. And there were, point of purchase activations, lot of buntings, decorations and all, which complemented the scene, plus the level at which the brand was. So 99 was the best result, 2003 it peaked and then it started waning and a lot of people started throwing in money into cricket then. So that is what I wanted to contribute to this.
Okay. Okay. Meeta, you want to say something?
Not really, Goldie. I'm just a simple viewer of cricket. I see it as a lay person.
All right. Okay. That's been very candid. Shubhendu, you want to add something to this? You've been quiet.
I will continue to stay as a listener. This topic is not mine.
All right.
I prefer staying a listener.
Fair. So I come back. Jaya wants to conclude or say something, and then we come to Sanjay. Sanjay, today, Sanjeev will not close. Sanjay, you would do the honors. Yeah, Jaya.
I would still like Sanjeev to close, but
Yeah.
yes, I would make a small point.
All right.
So,
Yeah, Jaya.
so sorry, I mean, I didn't have to make any point. It is Prasad who wants to say something. I don't know
Please
what.
get him on. I mean, I wish he was there for the entire thing. You must also tell Prasad that I defended him,
I'll tell him that.
Dhiraj, hi.
Yeah. Hi.
I didn't mean to be a party pooper. I just heard that. I mean, it so happened that I heard from the time Jaya spoke more a coincidence than anything else. I was just walking around. No, I just wanted to say one thing. Having been CEO of decently sized companies, it is like an ego of a CEO when you want to go into an M&A transaction. So when you go into M&A, it's exactly that when you pay these kind of crazy money that's going to cricket. Jaya made a very valid point. I'm not saying because she's my wife. Ultimately, you don't remember many of these brands. I follow cricket as she says. IPL not so much other than following the scores, where I think it's all tamasha cricket. But you don't remember any brand. I mean, as she said, tennis, you remember Rolex. You tell Roger Federer, you remember the best brands, blue ribbon bands. So I'm not sure that just because of ego, my CEO's ego has to be satisfied. How many CEOs' egos have been satisfied in M&A? And the companies are still crying, Look at, for example, Tata's buying steel companies overseas at the peak of the market. Mahindra selling out of this Korean company. So I think ego can't come to business, And I think if you have a good equation with the CEO, take him out with the family owner, take him to his house, have a few drinks with him, tell him nicely, boss, ye mat kariye. Mat kariye. Pay crore rupees to Gavaskar or somebody to come to your house, uske saath ab 2 घंटा बात कीजिए. मैं उनको बोलता हूँ, ये 100 crores, 50 crores, crazy money. I mean, this is madness. That's all I want. It was nice getting a part of the chat, but I have a bone to pick with you. Next time, you please let me know also about these chats.
Yeah, I will. Thank you, Prasad. All right.
Yeah, I
All
also
right.
have a small point.
Yeah, please, Chitra.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. No, so I'm not too sure why our Royal Bank of Scotland recently changed its name to NatWest, right? I mean, they're part of the NatWest group. So, I mean, there were some scandals associated, so they wanted to get to NatWest. But in India, also, they changed their name, and the press release they put out was that we changed our name because if Indians connect with NatWest, because of the Cricket Association, whereas they just don't remember Royal Bank of Scotland or, RBS or whatever. So they actually looked at the Cricket Connect when they changed their name. I mean, that shows how strong a connect that cricket is for a brand.
No, NetWest Connect is there. I think they have to thank Saurav Ganguly also for that, because it was the NetWest Trophy where Ganguly took his shirt out, and and that's something which is like a watershed in cricket watching, and therefore I think we know NetWest. Like for example, we knew Prudential before Prudential came to India through ICICI,
Exactly,
because we won the Prudential World Cup. So I think that's there. Fair,
And then
but I think
Prudential went away. It got sold off.
no, that's all right. But I think as a brand, they still survive, and as a brand, they still. I think there is this. We had that initial level affinity with them. Sanjay, your word, and then final words from Sanjeev.
Okay, thank you. The point that I want to make here is that looking at a tactical association with cricket and spending about 50 to 100 crores isn't really a very good idea unless and until it helps you build brand equity and not just a seasonal spike in your sales. Unfortunately, most of the associations today that are happening are largely defined by a seasonal spike. This year, let's put all our money into cricket because the IPL is happening or the World Cup is happening, so therefore nothing else. So everything else gets sidelined, whether it is one-day cricket or the IPL format, and that's about it. So the whole idea is to clinch this deal of either a sponsorship or an associate sponsorship or even a little logo on the T-shirt or whatever. But unfortunately, all your monies are spent in signing the deal, and you don't really have anything to do with the content. Now, if you take a parallel with Super Bowl, the entire marketing fraternity globally keeps waiting for the kind of ads which are going to be released and showcased to the world for the first time at the Super Bowl. Now, that is the level of involvement that you require with the content, with a global event of that size. Now, from India's point of view, more than 1 billion people, cricket is a religion, it's entertainment. Unfortunately, that's what it has become. It is no longer a Puritan sport. It is entertainment plus religion, and that is what drives most of the TRP. Whereas when you go to the Super Bowl or you go to any of the European football leagues, it is still sports in its most athletic and purest form. I mean, you just can't beat it's Olympic level sporting. It's something where you cannot really bring entertainment. You don't see entertainment anywhere. The fact that it is entertaining is purely because of the athleticism that you see on your screen, and you kind of aspire to be like you follow those stars. But here we follow our stars for completely different reasons. Now, for a brand to put in that kind of money without building on a sustainable equity, and that's where I came into ITC, the example, because that is something which has been etched in our minds for 6, 7, 10 years when you're associated with a format of a game. And day in and day out, you are building your campaigns around it. That is when your brand equity becomes larger than and that investment becomes worth it. If you are not able to achieve it, I think and every time you're on a bidding war every year, and one year you're there and the other year you're not there, I don't think you're achieving much. That purely is where I come from in terms of how whether brands really score with cricket. I think in the long term they haven't really, but in the short term, the good side of it is that IPL has allowed a lot of smaller and regional players, brands, to actually gain visibility at a national level. Calcutta-based brands, Gujarati brands, smaller Maharashtrian brands who are somewhere with their team, somewhere in a logo or, with a small spot that they're buying somewhere, because it's easier for them to, because the number of brands apart from the main one, which is coming on the T-shirt, are all very small regional brands that you would see mostly, and some that you wouldn't have heard of, and you won't hear of them in the next season. So for them, it is purely, an ability or to, get their trade excited that, oh, this brand is now into, mainstream cricket and therefore it's a big brand. So the good side of it is that it has increased the number of brands who can now democratically be a part of a cricketing sporting event. But the flip side is that we have really lost it because there are countless different complexities that we have created in terms of ad inventories, which makes it more and more difficult for brands to actually stand out unless and until they have some really good content. I think the best cricketing content in terms of advertising that has been done in India is still nothing official about it. I think no one could beat that, and it was really something which stole the thunder from even the sponsors. But having said that, nothing else really strikes me as really good content that I saw first, or I can associate with the cricketing story ever in India. I mean, there's been Sahara, there's been Airtel, there's been Coke, Pepsi, everything, but except for that one campaign, I still don't think Swiggy and all are fine, but they're still not. They're associated with me for a different reason. Cricket doesn't come in as the first brand that they are associated with. Like Kia comes into mind when I think about the Australian Open. or Rolex with other forms of tennis. But in India, I don't see any brand which really comes in. So there's a good side to it, that smaller brands or regional brands or mid-sized brands are now coming into the cricket bandwagon. But the flip side is that we are not being able to sustainably build brand equity for larger brands, which they should have. The arc has really not risen the way that it should have, with that kind of money being put in.
Yeah, but
Thanks.
Sanjay, I think that is the issue that you raise is a pertinent issue, but that has got to do with I would say that's not got to do with just cricket alone. I think it's basically the the problem that we have as branding people and as marketing people, where we are not consistent. Consistency is something which is highly undervalued, or which is not something which is it's a virtue that a brand or a brand manager should have. If you stay consistent, so neither has the association with cricket stayed consistent, nor has the content with that they put on has stayed consistent. The only guy only guys who have been consistent was Vodafone for a couple of years when they came out with the Zuzu campaign. But that also sort of died out for whatever reason. So the issue is that you have to be on the platform consistently, and I think taking the point that Tanmay was making, that you also have to then ensure that you are there throughout the year. There's this activation that you need to do. You got to do a build up, then you got to do a follow through. So you got to keep that alive. And I think the example that you gave for Wills was right. I mean, they carried out. It was not that you would see Wills only in that time associating with cricket. So even the Wills lifestyle store, you would see some cricket stuff there in that store itself. So they extended the brand, they extended the association completely. And that is the way we got to look at it. I think, which unfortunately the fraternity has not done.
Very true. Unfortunately, in India, brand positioning keeps changing with the next CEO. So every CEO comes in with his own, idea of what the brand should stand for, and then moves away 3 years later, and then again the thing starts. So consistency, like you said, is not really a virtue that we practice in branding in India, unfortunately. But the new Jaya probably were people who stood for it during the M.A.D.D days, and that's something that still sticks out. Cricket or no cricket.
You should find out from me how we had to fight for it.
Well, that's it. Like you said, all for the benefit of the brand.
A different forum.
All for the benefit of the brand.
All right. I think I hurriedly go to Sanjeev to close, because I think we've, one of the key things of M.A.D.D is that we normally keep our discussions confined to 75 minutes. Today, I think we had a fabulous attendance, and I think the topic is such that everybody had a point of view.
Just one small point.
Yeah.
Just one small point. I think you guys have really covered and brought it very nicely. I think it's really horses for courses, because when you're looking at cricket as a property or even IPL, it is definitely a property which has got a lot of noise. So if you don't have the wherewithal, you don't have the money, you're not likely to make an impact.
This guy also.
Or you really pick up something which is going to be, tactically useful for you at that particular point of time. So, I mean, like the Vodafone campaign that you mentioned, Airtel and Vodafone, I think, ran that for at least 2 or 3 IPL. But like LK mentioned, I think the monies have been constantly growing. I think IPL as a property started at about 2-3 lakhs per 10 seconds, has gone up to now 12.5 lakhs per 10 seconds. So it has become a very expensive property for one brand to completely own, like it was earlier that Wills could possibly completely own that particular property. So today that is becoming extremely difficult for one brand to put that kind of money.
Yeah. And
so, I mean, even if you look at now Dream 11, I think investing just for 1 year, 230 crores is phenomenal amount of money. So what return or ROI they're going to get out of it is really going to be a big challenge.
Yeah, but Raja, Dream 11, I think it's also a question of, I think what we will do is give them authenticity, give them credibility. I think that is also something they're looking at.
That's true.
So suddenly there's recognition from BCCI, So that credibility factor is what they're looking at.
And it's venture money, so it's VC money.
It's venture money also, it's VC money. All right. I think one thing that came up, and then we sort of, Sanjay Shirotia has been sort of mentioning that on the chat, that we've not sort of done justice to, is the point that came in that we don't do too much of research. That marketeers are not doing too much of research, and today for some reason Ashu decided to keep quiet. Okay, so I think we move on to Sanjeev to close, but before that I can see Atul in Mita's frame. Atul, hi, thank you for coming in. I think you should participate sometime. Participate sometime. Atul heads Dixon, and Dixon is the largest contract manufacturer in India, Indian contract manufacturer. So I think they've been doing Atam Nirbhar for ages. Atul, you must connect with Mr. Sandeep Ghosh, sometime later. He did a fantastic article on Atam Nirbhar. He's a big proponent of that. think that's the best thing that can happen to India. Atul's company, Dixon, has been doing, has been the back-end manufacturer, contract manufacturer for a whole lot of consumer durable companies in India. I think you name a company and they do work for them. All right, Atul, next time you must join in along with.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Yeah.
All right, Sanjeev, over to you. Quick closure.
Wow. So it's been a great session as usual, and I think this time everybody scored and everybody used a lot of scoring sort of strokes to score. So we had a lot of interesting points which have come in. So Sandeep, of course, made the very valid point that about IPL being and cricket being a marketing event rather than a sports event. And I think this came through a number of times later on during the discussion also. Of course, the important point also that often cricket sponsorship or participation is not just because of the brand, it is because of the trade or because of various other reasons, you know. Decision making in organizations being what they are, I mean, there are other influences also. So, then Hemant, LK of course made the point that heroes, about Indian public worship, liking heroes, and cricket creates some of the biggest heroes. So where the fish is, the fishermen have to go there. So that's where the brands head for. Of course, then came then Raj mentioned about how other sports have been neglected and how television is actually driving content and taking our creating a sort of situation where we are following Western clubs rather than our own sports. So that was very interesting. Okay, Shekhar made the point that brands should connect with the game, and I think that point came out later also when Jia gave the examples of what sports international brands are supported with what which game. Cricket, unfortunately, it appears right now is not associated with any one game. One of the factors, of course, being the huge cost that is associated with sponsoring cricket in India. Has become such a big game that no one brand can dominate or can use the game. Then the point came of how brands have been using the game. IPL, for example, has been used a lot of brands just to increase their share of voice, like LK mentioned. Tanmay made the point that sponsorship is just a ticket entry gate, and how you utilize the whole game after that is what is very important. And not a lot of brands seem to be doing that, and partly because of the availability of money, because getting into the game is just part of the expense, and using it and getting most out of it is very difficult. Also, it could be a question of the time and the inclination of the marketing managers. Rajappa gave us some interesting examples of how brands have actually used the game very well. He mentioned Parlay 2020, the example of how a brand has used the game to make a huge business impact, and how sales grew, and how the whole brand did very well. I think Hemant talked of the PR perspective, the huge opportunities that exist in the game to get PR mileage, and how that's not being fully exploited, or even if it is there, it's not talked of enough noise has not been made. Jia made the important point of how brand association, the association of brands with cricket is still so fluid. It keeps changing so much that we don't associate cricket with a particular brand. Dhananjay gave the example of LG and how at different stages of the brand maturity, cricket was used in a different way. And then, of course, Sanjay Sharma recalled the huge association that brands like Wills had with the game, and how that has stood the test of time, and how we recall it. So I think it was a very grounded discussion. We sort of looked at all aspects of how cricket has been used by various brands, and what are the loopholes and what can be done. Clearly, it is becoming more and more of a a winner take all kind of a thing. But the winner, of course, when he buys the pill, he often does not have enough time or money to exploit it fully. There are opportunities to use the game much better than it has been in the past. So that's the sort of sense I get through the discussion. Very, very interesting discussion, and I think very, very informative for me.
Wonderful. I think also the credit of getting this topic on goes to Chitra. I think she's the one who said we must discuss this. Very pertinent that we discuss it at this point in time. But I think a few learnings which Sanjeev, I think you chose to ignore. I don't know whether that was deliberate. It was that marketing guys are largely lethargic. They don't dig deep into research. They don't figure out whether the investments are actually delivering what they're supposed to deliver. At times we bow under the pressure of the promoter, and therefore we sponsor only for the heck of it because the promoter feels very nice, in his cocktail circuit. Now these are all things that I think I'm sure these have been spoken very candidly in forum like this.
Yeah.
I think it's a damn good thing because this
Absolutely.
is what perhaps reality is, and I think the point that Tanmoy made that you got to be why only be there in those 45 days. What is surprising about IPL, which I find so funny, is that brands which are associated with teams, they have an annual contract, but they do nothing about that contract after the IPL is over, which is so surprising. They can carry on the campaign. They do just nothing about it. They can do a lot of activations post IPL, and I'm sure it will not be so expensive then. You can get into a small regional channel. You can get, like Chitra mentioned, you can get into social media. You can do smaller things there. You'll get a fantastic ROI, and you are only leveraging the big money or the big buck that you spent signing up with the with the franchise. I think that's something that the marketing fraternity is missing a trick on. All right, so thank you so much. I think this is for the guys who came in for the first time. This is the first time that we've sort of exceeded our time limit. Thank you so much for being there. And Sandeep, I think since we gave you the honor of opening, I think why don't you also be the night watchman and play the last ball? Sandeep, over to you.
Hit it out of the park for a 6, Sandeep.
No. We have discussed it all. I don't want to take more time. I will only comment to Giriraj's last point, but for a food for thought to be taken home. One reason people don't do it through the year is, as was mentioned earlier by, I think, LK, someone, IPL has become a seasonal thing. ठीक है, इस season में हमको मच्छी खाना है, so we'll have that, but we don't have it through the rest of the year. So there is no connect with the audience. Only when the game is happening or there is a build-up, that's why. So that could be one reason. But if you are associating with a player, you'll find those who do that, they carry that through if they have got rights on the player, but not with the team. And the other point is, I think the biggest point which was made here, the IPL, why the ROI doesn't work is because everybody is seeing this as an entry point to get a visibility. They're not looking at it as we right at the beginning, I said, the sports agnostic or team agnostic. People are all seeing that and paying a premium to get in there, or that's how it is being sold to them. And all other considerations, whether it's of the brand fit or the ROI, those are falling by the wayside. And that is where the whole thing, and there's a big racket, which, as I keep saying, the media marketers have done damn well. When they come to sell you the bouquet, they'll tell you the left arm costs this much, the right, we have ladies here, I would say that they want to, every part of the anatomy they are trying to sell to you. And what do you get out of it? You spend a few crores, and even if you amplify it, get nothing. So great discussion. Thank you so much. And as you said, this was a forum where we could discuss all this openly without our promoters around or other guys around who would take offense. So thank you.
Thank you, Giraj.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Lovely meeting.
Great discussion.
Thank you, Giraj, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Till the next time.
Wonderful
Enjoy the
meeting
season.
everyone.
Enjoy the season, guys.
All right.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. See you.
Okay, bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Giraj, so
Yeah.
Suresh Raina's uncle, something has happened. I think there's a news story coming out. That's why he quit the IPL,
Or
So
I know I thought because they were not very candid, they were not very forthcoming as to who the player in IPL is, and then
no,
suddenly
so they said Suresh Raina's uncle dies aren't critical after attack by unidentified assailants in Pathankot. So that's the
Yeah,
reason that he's
the CSK player that got COVID is Deepak Chahar.
Okay, that's confirmed.
Yeah, that's what I read somewhere. Suresh Raina's news was there in the afternoon that he's coming back because of this reason, and everybody thought he had COVID.
Even I thought that because they said one Chennai player, so we thought that's the player, and that's what we were discussing before we started off. Okay, but this is unfortunate. I mean,
very unfortunate. No, so CSK is starting off with on the backhand, literally, right? I mean, there's so many things, and very sad. I mean, I'm batting for Team CSK. So
Same here.
and he's an important element.
He's the best. His record in IPL is far better than anybody else's. I mean, he's the highest scorer in IPL. I think neck to neck with Virat and Rohit Sharma.
Sandeep spoke so much about cement and cricket. I think India cement is really done. I mean, I was waiting for him to say India cement, but he didn't say it. But I think India cement has become a household name because of CSK, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I think they've done the brand connect really well.
And also, I think Chitra, that we keep talking about in IPL is that the franchises have actually mismanaged themselves in the sense that, if you compare that to an EPL, there is a core team, a core set of 6, 7, 8 players. They would belong to that particular city or whatever, and they won't change. They will stay on for about 10 years or 12 years. It is only towards the faggot of the career, when they realize there's no future here, they will be benched. That's the time that they move on to another club. But for a large part of their prime career, they play for the same team. That's what's happened only with Chennai Super Kings. So whether and it's not just limited to Dhoni. So it is Suresh Raina, Jadeja, even up to say a Mulli Karthik, Mulli Vijay. I mean, they've been consistent with these guys.
They've had a good strategy.
They had picked up a bowler like Mohit Sharma, and they played with him for about 5-6 years. It's only when this guy ran out of steam that they let him go. But or Mike Hussey, Mike Hussey was there with them for so long that when suddenly one day Mike Hussey shifted and went to coach Mumbai Indians, you couldn't sort of digest that, So I think they've been very, very consistent with the teams that they've had. And despite the fact that they were banned for a year, despite the fact that they were not in IPL for a year, and I think when they started again, as if nothing had changed for them, So they have managed.
No, it's a well-oiled machine.
It's a well-oiled
CSK
machine.
is a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, the other point which nobody really talked about here is, that the whole the political angle of it, BCCI with its, now the China angle and poor Vivo having to get off, I mean, all that is also, there is the uncertainty that, brand associations in India bring, because you never know the external environment. I think that it's so volatile that, passions are so volatile that
Somebody did touch upon it very peripherally about nationalism, but because of the sensitivity involved, he didn't deal with it much.
So not necessarily nationalism also. See, even betting, a couple of teams getting banned. You have backed the team, you have sponsored the team, and if the team is getting banned, what do you do? So I think the betting angle also, the whole shady underbelly of IPL is also, do brands want to? I think that point we didn't explore on whether the seamy side of it can dissuade brands from being there. I mean, Rajappa said that there's only good things with IPL. He said that if you associate with Arnab, there'll be a negative rub-off. But even with IPL, there could be negative rub-off if a team gets banned because of betting, etc. Right?
Correct.
But
and it has happened. It has not happened. Even with Chennai Super King, it has happened. Even with, their son-in-law of Mr. Srinivasan was right there.
Yeah.
So I think they've been able to sustain that. That's the kind of equity that they have. But yes, it is not without their controversies or the spot fixing. Where they and the Shrishant episode.
Correct.
I think there's a lot that's happened here as well.
I know, but for some reason, I did not localize it only to IPL. I saw the topic as a broader topic, and I dealt with cricket because I thought everybody skewed it towards IPL. So
yeah, we should have. Actually, Shekhar, we should have, because, for example, I'm reminded of Habib Bank sponsorship of Pakistan cricket, it has been such a long association, Habib, most of the players, they have a very nice local team, or Pakistan International Airlines, PIA's association with the team, or Pepsi's association with Pakistan team. I think they've been very consistent there. So there are a whole lot of examples, or wires and cable in West Indies, look at that association. It's been there since ages.
I think IPL being around the corner, I think it did overshadow the discussion. But
and also it is the biggest.
Yeah, that was and also because we've not had much of branding, marketing activity through the year, I think, because there was just a drought. So
that point also didn't come across, Chitra. I thought somebody will bring that point across.
Yeah.
That, because you've had no forum to advertise, no platform, no live events.
No, nothing. Yeah. So,
I think plus this game, if it goes off well, if nothing untoward happens, then it will lift the mood of the nation also.
The spirit of the nation, yes.
That's very important.
No, just the sheer announcement, I think, has brought in some amount of optimism and positive, something to look forward to in these gloomy times,
Chalo, on that note, I have to go dinner, preparations, etc.
Right.
Thank you.
Bye.
It was lovely meeting you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Mr. Maninder. Bye, Shekhar. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you
Bye,
for coming,
Steve, take
Shekhar.
care.
Guys, thank you very much
Bye.
for inviting
Bye,
me.
Chitra.
It was a pleasure.
We are normally Shekhar, we are normally more disciplined, and we normally make sure that we finish discussion in 75 minutes. But I think maybe because of the cricket, and because I think our opening batsman took a lot of time in setting the entire thing, and then the reference of Chitra to Super Bowl, I think that sort of got people very excited. But I'm very happy that
I know, but we must have people who get on with the act like Rahul or Shikhar Dhawan, or not like Cheteshwar Pujara. Okay.
So what you're saying is that even if you're middling every ball, if you're not scoring enough, it's Test match cricket is not ideal.
It's as good as watching like static images I see sometimes on while having a Zoom meeting.
All right.
Well,
Okay.
great.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Vindra. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.